Hello, welcome. Michelangelo Ricci here. This is my shop based in Florence. I'm going to try to answer the questions that my clients have given me regarding what I do. A lot of you have asked me about plans to reproduce the solids, but the thing is I have no plans because it's all about degrees and angles and carrying these values to the machines in a correct way, and especially with extreme precision. But first of all, we'll look at the machines that I use in the order that they need to be used. Okay, so this is a surface planer. It's a very small surface planer that serves my purposes. It's a machine that my father bought around 25 years ago. It's an attempt at making a hobby machine by this Italian manufacturer called ELU that doesn't exist anymore because it was absorbed by DeWalt. To tell you the truth, I think they failed at making a machine meant for hobby, because really this machine has nothing to envy to a more professional one. So next, we have a sliding table saw. This is a very good machine. It's a professional machine, although it's a very small machine. And it will be essential for one of the cuts that we had to make. Although you could use an ordinary table saw and adapt it with a piece of plywood and try to make something like this. Thickness planer. This is a heavy duty, about 40 years old piece of machinery that still does its job very well. Drum sander. This machine removes the ripples that the planer makes. It also helps with the problem of intertwined fiber woods that such woods have, like for example olive wood. Palm sander. We need this machine to remove the marks that the drum sander leaves. So in theory we could go directly from the planer to the palm sander, but since it's a manual machine, we might risk staying too long in one place to remove the ripples, or for example, even worse, the parts where the fibers are intertwined. So we need to remove the ripples and the parts where the wood is intertwined with the drum sander, and then move to the palm sander. Miter saw. The job we do with this type of machine accepts no compromise. The machine has to be a professional piece of equipment. It needs to be very precise at doing its job. And last but not least, nail gun. We absolutely need this type of machine to put the solids together, and it has to be a nail gun that shoots pins, so very fine nails. So we're going to choose some wood. That on the left is ash, it's a piece of ash, and on the right it's a piece of walnut. But we need a lot less than this. So we're gonna use these two pieces, ash and the walnut. So a bit of the basics of woodworking now. Woodworking starts from here. We need a straight edge. This part that I used before already has a straight edge, but we're gonna do it again on this side. But it's really important when surface planing is not go against the grain. So I'm drawing this line here, and say that the grain goes this way, then this is the correct way. This is spinning this way, this is the blade, so this is the correct side. On the contrary, the not correct way would be the other way around, which would be if the grain was going this way, so not like this, but like this. This would be wrong because it would tear the fiber, and that would cause a big problem. So now let's take a closer look at this. Basically, you have to decide which side will give you less problems. For example, you see this grain here starts a bit higher up and then goes closer to the end of the board, but it's not the same here. So you have to decide which side will give you less problems, and I chose this side. So this was pretty good because most of the wood is planed smooth. It's not quite perfect though, because ash also has the problem, even if it's sparse, but it does have the problem of intertwined fiber, and it's right here. I'm not sure if you can see where the wood is torn, but this will be solved by the drum sander. On this piece of walnut, the direction of the grain is a lot more obvious, actually. See how the grain is on a slant, so it's much easier on this board to decide which side to plane. For example, it's gonna be basically the other way around, because if I went this way, then it would go against the grain. So now we have a perfect straight edge side of the board. Beautiful walnut, and it's gonna go down on the trolley, and we need to obtain a perfect 90-degree angle with this side of the board, and we'll do it with the blade, and I'm showing you how. So basically we are bringing this straight edge against the blade. And we push this board against the straight edge as far as all the blade is going to cut some of the wood. And we clamp it. Now I gotta tell you, I use a crappy 24 teeth blade for ripping wood. That's not meant for this saw. It's 2.4 millimeters. This saw uses 3.2 millimeters. But I use this one because I don't care about the quality of the cut at this point. Because I'm always gonna go plane all of the sides that I am cutting with this blade, and the only reason why I use this blade is because it's much faster, because it cuts through wood much faster than say a 40 teeth or 60 teeth blade. So basically now we have to cut the width of the sticks that we need to make the solid. We have to decide which side we're going to do. The sticks are 2 centimeters by 1 centimeter. So I'm going to decide which side is going to be the 2 centimeter and which side the 1. And I'm going to add all the wood to the cut. I'm going to add all the wood that I need to take when I'm planing and when I'm sanding. So for example, if I'm doing the 1 centimeter side, well then in that case I will add half a millimeter for each time I pass, for each side I pass on the thickness planer, plus the width of the blade, plus another half millimeter for each side for the drum sander. So now we have to make the calculation, which will be 1 centimeter plus 2.4 millimeters plus 2 millimeters. So basically we're going to cut 14.4. We'll make it even and we'll cut 15 basically. To obtain the 1 centimeter thick stick, we need to cut 15 millimeters. So now we're going to plane both sides, and the same rules apply as for surface planing. I'm gonna start with half a millimeter each side and see how the wood behaves. In this case, both the woods behaved quite well, except for some minor issues, such as this part here, near the knot for the walnut. But it's minor, and I'm not worried about it, so I'm gonna do another 2 passes each on the planer, just because it's faster. And then I will get rid of this problem with the drum sander. The drum sander will be able to get rid of that problem because it's the tears are not very deep. So now I brought all the wood down to 11 millimeters just to make sure. I'm going to measure it with this. So now I have half a millimeter for each side to take with the drum sander. On this wonderful machine I have mounted a really thick sandpaper. It's 80 grain, because I don't care about the finish that this machine makes, but I want this machine to get rid of the ripples, like I said earlier, and the tears, because I'm going to finish the wood with the palm sander, which is always better. So the drum sander does a very good job at removing the ripples, but it does leave marks, the sandpaper marks, because it's a thick sandpaper I use. So that's okay, because later when the sticks are finished, then they will be sanded with they will be finished with the palm sander. For the next job, I changed the blade. I have to be honest with you, this is another crappy blade, but I don't care because, like I said before, I finish the wood with the drum sander and the palm sander, so I don't care about the quality of the cut. Except for this next job, I had to cut through a lot less wood, a lot less thick, so I can do it with more teeth, and this is 60 teeth, and it's also the blade that I will use for the next cut after this one. So this is the side that was originally planed on the surface planer, as opposed to this side where that hasn't been touched yet. So I'm going to put the side that was originally planed against the straight edge, the saw's straight edge, and cut the 2 centimeters plus the 5 millimeters as before. Now the sticks are almost finished. I'm going to sand every side of them with the palm sander, and I'm gonna use 220 grain, which is a big jump from 80 to 220, but it works. The 220 with the palm sander managed to get rid of the marks. Every side of the wood, every side of the sticks is nice and smooth now, so I'm going to oil it. I'm going to oil it now because this will be much easier, of course, when the wood is still in this state, and then it will solve the problem of the glue as well, because there is going to be a lot of gluing, a lot of small gluing. So this causes a problem because glue stains the wood. But if it's oiled before, then the glue will not stain the wood. And of course, the parts that I'm gluing will not have been touched by the oil, because that will be the cuts that I yet have to do. This machine is extremely precise, and it allows me to cut on 30 degrees very precisely, and I'm cutting 6 at a time, both because it's faster and because being stacked like that, they will prevent each other from tearing where the blade cuts on the way out, basically. So I'm cutting these 10 centimeters long. The ash I'm cutting 8 centimeters long. Okay, now I have these nice little pieces of wood. I need 48 for each truncated octahedron. I made more than 48 because That way I can choose some of them, because some of them will have some issues, so I will put them aside and choose the best ones. So I made like 10% extra for each, for the walnut and the ash. So now we're going to make some hexagons. The hexagons are ready, so now we're gonna have to do the dihedral cut, which is this part here of the truncated octahedron. These are the tools needed to make that cut, the dihedral cut: ruler, protractor, and a well-sharpened pencil. The dihedral angle of the octahedron is 109.47 degrees approximately. So there it is. And the center of the protractor. And now I need to draw a line and put these 2 points together. 109.47 divided by 2 equals 54.7. So with the protractor we need to draw the line, and this is the angle that we need to bring to the saw. For the next job we need the miter saw. So I added the 90-degree angle because, like I have written here, 90 degrees equals 0 on the miter saw. So basically the miter saw starts counting from 90 degrees. So 90 degrees minus 54.7 equals 35.3. So this is what we need to cut on the miter saw. We need to cut a piece of wood on the miter saw with that angle, and then we have to see if it matches on this angle that I drew here. If it matches, then we'll bring this piece of wood on the saw, on the table saw, and we will tilt the blade until it matches perfectly, and then we will have the perfect dihedral cut. So I cut the piece at 35, and it does match perfectly. So now I'm bringing this to the table saw. I tilted the blade until it matches perfectly. I know it's a perfect match because if I try to move the piece of wood, it doesn't give way in any way. So this is how the blade has to be for the diedro cut. Here's when the sliding table saw becomes very handy. I extended the straight edge with this piece of wood and I clamped the hexagon with the sliding, with the trolley's clamp, and this enables me to make a perfect cut. So now I can go ahead and put together the inner truncated octahedron, the smaller one. See, I cut every other side of the hexagon. This is because every hexagon will come in contact with 3 other hexagons, basically. So it will not be needed to do anything on this side. The inner part is finished. I can put it all together. The outer part is in 2 halves because it has yet, the inner part has yet to go inside. So now the lamp is pretty much finished.
Solid geometry has fascinated scientists, philosophers, mathematicians throughout history, starting from Plato in ancient Greece, Archimedes, Leonardo da Vinci in the Renaissance, and many others. They all believed and tried to prove that the very essence of nature and the whole universe has the form of these solids. And they were not wrong. In fact, these solids are designed by mathematics. They are only discovered by humans. I think these objects have sort of a mysterious energy. Our minds are attracted by the symmetries that unconsciously we seek in everything we lay eyes on. However, we are so used to everything around us being flat and square because most of the objects we are surrounded by are in the form of a box, a cube, that when we are presented with a shape that goes beyond the canonic 90 degrees angle, immediately we are attracted to it. My job is to find the right proportions and conjugate everything with lighting. The natural warmth of solid wood does the rest.